All right, so let's look at the different types. We looked at matter, and we looked at the different types of matter. Um, the four different types was element, compound, homogeneous mixture, and heterogeneous mixture. But today, as well, we're going to also be looking at the different types of changes or properties we have to those types of matters. So first off, we can look at physical versus chemical, looking at the changes and also the properties. And properties is just the characteristics of that type of matter. And we'll look at that right now. Okay. So basically, we break down into two different groups. We have the physical properties and the chemical properties. So let's look at the physical properties first. The main thing is it can be observed or measured without changing the chemical composition. So it's something we can observe with our eye, or we can taste it, we can feel it, something like that. A good example would be boiling point. This substance will boil at a certain degree or freeze at a certain degree. Also, how hard is the substance? Testing the hardness is not going to change the composition. Neither is luster, that means shininess. Also, we can do malleability, which means the ability to be bent but not broken. So anything we can observe with our physical eye, color, shape, anything like that is going to be a physical property, something that can be observed without changing the type of matter. All right. Then we have what's called chemical properties, and this can only be observed by changing the composition. And what that's going on there when we're doing a chemical property is just say the reactivity of a substance when it reacts to another substance. So once we test that reactivity and see how fast it reacts, we can't get back that same element or that same type of matter. So that's a chemical properties. When we have to change the composition to find something out, that's a chemical property. Combustion rate, how fast was something, combustion rate and flammability, that same thing. About when will something burst into flames, or when will something catch on fire, or how easy can it catch on fire, stuff like that. If it's changing the composition once we find out that property, then it's a chemical property. Okay? And then also now let's look at the change. I'm going pretty fast, but let's look at the different types of changes. We looked at chemical properties versus physical properties. Let's look at the changes. Physical change does not change the type of matter. So whether it be ripping, freezing, breaking, boiling, if your same composition, just say if H2O was frozen, all right, and then we heated it up till now it's H2O liquid. All right, it went from a solid to a liquid. All right, but the composition stays the same, H2O and H2O. So the composition stays the same. So if the same composition stays the same throughout the change, then we know it is a physical change. Also, chopping a block of wood, same type of composition, just a different shape. So that would be a physical change as well. Okay. So if it can go back to the, or if it stays the same molecular formula, then it is a physical change. Okay. Last one, we have chemical change. And this means a new substance is being created. You start with one thing and you end with another. Burning, cooking, rusting, chemical reaction. Just say if we start out with HCl plus O. All right. And so oxygen is going to react with us, the diatomic molecule, so we have to put it there. And so oxygen is going to react with hydrochloric acid, and let's say that it yields up Cl2 plus H plus. All right. So now we look at it here that when that reaction takes place, the molecular formula changes for both. And so what happens when we know a chemical change takes place, the composition is going to be different. Whether we burn it or whatever it might be, when the composition changes and the substance during a change, we know that is a chemical change. All right. So we had a physical property, which is something that can be observed, a chemical property that can only be observed when we change the composition of an element. That's going to be chemical property. And then physical versus chemical change. Physical property is something that we can change without changing the molecular formula. When a chemical change, it can't go back to the original state. It's going to stay in that state, or it cannot be reverted back to that. Okay, and that's different types of changes.